Last night, I took a couple of minutes out of my stream to play a little bit of Breath of the Wild. This is the first time I've played Breath of the Wild since Tears of the Kingdom came out. According to the save file, I haven't played it since 2021. And so, of course, I'm going into this with a new perspective. I'm playing it on Master Mode for the first time. I've been wanting to come back to this game for years, but I've been putting it off for a variety of reasons. Most admittedly, I just haven't had the time. I've been going through a lot of life-changing things over the past since 2017, since the Switch came out. So it's been difficult for me to go back and play games, even some of my favorite games ever, the way I used to. So it honestly kind of feels like a completely new game playing it again because I'm doing things differently. I'm trying to experiment more. I'm trying to do things out of order. I'm trying to experience the game fresh for the first time. And that is something that I think a lot of people don't really appreciate about this, is that it is fresh, right? Because of the way the game is structured, because of how you can do whatever you want. There really is no reason for you to follow the main quest line. You can start a completely new file of Breath of the Wild, and it'll turn out completely differently than the first one, right? In the first time I played the game, I went straight to Kakariko, and then I went to, the four corners of the map, and then I went to go fight Ganon. Here, I tried to go fight Ganon immediately, and I learned really quickly why you can't do that, because you just get stomped by all the things in there, right? I remember playing this game for the first time, and, doing it near the end, and thinking the castle, it wasn't easy, right? I thought it was a really cool, interesting final level with lots of cool unique enemies and all these situations you can get into. But I wondered how difficult it would be to do this at the beginning of the game. And no, now that I've tried it, with absolutely no nothing other than the paraglider. Now that I've tried it, I know it's perfectly possible to beat Ganon with starter equipment, but I couldn't do it when I first booted up the game. And it's not my thing to beat the game as quickly as possible, right? I just want to play the game, however I want, going wherever I want, doing whatever I want, beating all these shrines, doing all this stuff. And it kind of dawned on me while I was playing this, is that the game is a masterpiece, first of all. I've always maintained that. The game has been out long enough for me to say that for certain. Coming back to it, I can say, tell you again, this is one of the best games ever made, and just one of the best Zelda games, period. I loved this game when it came out, and now that I've come back to it, I can tell you that I'll probably be playing this game to a certain extent for the rest of my life, right? However long that may be. So, that is that's the thing I've always been saying. But the thing that's new to me, the thing that's changed over the past couple of months, is that now I've played the sequel. Now I've played Tears of the Kingdom, and it just goes to show you just what exactly, how this game stacks up, right? How does this game compare to Tears of the Kingdom? Is it worse? Is it better? There is no obvious answer, honestly. I think the best way to describe it is that the games are different from each other, and that is actually better than saying one is better or worse, because I think I maintained what I said when I first played Tears of the Kingdom, is that which one is your favorite is mostly up to personal preference, because they do have different, play styles. They are radically different when it comes to the general structure and what you're supposed to be doing and how you can do it and the powers you have and stuff like that. It is shocking, coming back to Breath of the Wild, how different it feels from Tears of the Kingdom. You have different enemies you have to fight. You have different weapons. You have different powers. It really almost feels like a completely different game. It is a completely different game, right? They're really not that similar at all. And coming back to Breath of the Wild, you really start appreciating some of the things that, Breath of the Wild did more. Cryonosis, right? That was the power-up I kind of made fun of the most. When I was playing Tears of the Kingdom, cryonesis, it's kind of useless. And, I play this game, I pop in Breath of the Wild, I have cryonesis, and then I just use it to cross a river. And it kind of dawned on me, wow, you can't really do that in Tears of the Kingdom. In Tears of the Kingdom, you kind of have to build a boat, build a bridge or something. It's different, right? It is a completely different experience to the game. Because of what you have, right? And it's so remarkable how this same map design, right, can just be feel completely different just because of where you're supposed to go right away, how you're supposed to do it, where you start in the game, where what equipment you have, what powers you have. It just really feels like a radically different experience, right? Like I found myself kind of shocked, like playing this game again and like remembering that, like, wow, towers don't shoot you up into the sky in this game. You have to like climb them up. Climb up them. It's a completely different experience, right? And that completely different experience leads to a whole new kind of fun, right? Like, it's not the same thing at all, but that's not a bad thing, like, in any way, shape, or form. Like, I hesitate to call, like, Tears of the Kingdom better or worse than Breath of the Wild because I love both games, right? Like, I think, back in the 2000s, that was kind of the problem that we had, like, going from Majora's Mask to Wind Waker to Twilight Princess and Skyward Sword, is that, like, everyone always wanted to say that, like, one Zelda game was better than the other. I want to put a stop to that, honestly. With Tears of the Kingdom, Tears of the Kingdom really made me realize just how much I value and love every Zelda game, regardless of its quality or like, all the negative things about them or like the my personal preferences, because at the very least, like, every time you play a new Zelda game, you get a completely different experience. You get Minish Cap and like exploring these the world, this great fantasy setting, like, underneath your feet. You get to explore, like, Link's Awakening, the world of dreams, right? With the jump mechanic, and you start getting into these weird situations. You have like classics like A Link to the Past, the original Zelda, Ocarina of Time, Majora's Mask, Wind Waker, Twilight Princess, Spirit Trek, Skyward Sword, Triforce Heroes, A Link Between Worlds, and Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, all of which are completely unique and distinct from each other, which not only make these games 10 out of 10s in their own right, but it makes The Legend of Zelda the greatest gaming franchise ever made. I am not satisfied by simply saying that, like, The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild or The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom are the game of the year anymore. Like, we really need, as a community, to refer to, like, The Legend of Zelda as objectively the best series of its kind ever made.